For 2 years, they stood against bombs, blockade, and hunger. An island no bigger than a city, outnumbered, outgunned, and nearly forgotten. Yet they refused to fall. This is the story of the island that fought alone. Malta is a small island in the middle of the Mediterranean, just 17 miles long and 9 miles wide. To most maps, it's a dot. But to the powers fighting in the Second World War, it was a jewel set in the sea lanes of history, lying between Sicily to the north and Libya to the south. Malta sat directly on the Axis supply route between Italy and Rommel's Afrika Korps. Whoever held Malta could strike at enemy convoys and starve armies before they reached the front. By 1940, Malta was a British colony, but one with fragile defenses. The garrison was small, its air force outdated, and its coastal defenses limited. To Mussolini, the island seemed ripe for the taking. In Rome, he predicted Malta would fall in a week. On June 10, 1940, Italy entered the war. Less than 24 hours later, Italian bombers swept across the short stretch of water from Sicily and struck Valletta's Grand Harbor. Warehouses burned, cranes collapsed, and the dockyards were shattered. The defenders scrambled what they could, famously, just 3 aging Gloucester Gladiator biplanes, nicknamed Faith, Hope, and Charity. They were no match for the faster Italian aircraft, but they became a symbol for the islanders, their noisy engines buzzing overhead during those first desperate days. Civilians took shelter in catacombs and limestone, tunnels carved centuries earlier by the Knights of St. John. Families huddled together in darkness, the air thick with dust, the sound of bombs above like rolling thunder. The first weeks turned into months. Food was rationed: bread, beans, and whatever could be fished from the sea. Sugar, coffee, and fresh meat disappeared from daily life. Children learned to run for cover at the sound of sirens, diving into rock-cut shelters before the bombs fell. Private Harold Stevenson, a British soldier stationed in Valletta, later wrote, "You could taste the fear in the air. Every day you wondered if the next bomb would find you. And yet, people still smiled, still waved, still brought us water when we passed." The island's survival depended on supplies from the sea. Every convoy from Gibraltar or Alexandria had to run a gauntlet of enemy aircraft and submarines. Ships were sunk within sight of the island. Survivors were dragged ashore by fishing boats. In January 1941, the Luftwaffe arrived. German pilots flew Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters and Ru-87. Stuka dive bombers, faster, deadlier, and more disciplined than the Italians. The air raids intensified, sometimes 7 or 8 a day. Grand Harbor became a killing ground. Any ship that dared dock there was attacked within hours. The dockyard workers repaired vessels under fire, refusing to abandon their posts even when bombs fell close. Pilot George Bergs recalled, "We had no time to think. We scrambled, fought, landed, refueled, and went up again. Sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. The sky was never empty of someone trying to kill you." By early 1942, Malta was on the edge of collapse. Convoys rarely got through. Bread rations dropped to 4 ounces a day per person. Cooking oil became so scarce that people greased pans with water mixed with flour. Maltese mother Maria Camilleri remembered, "I gave my children tea made from boiled weeds. We told them it was soup. It was the only way to keep them quiet at night when their stomachs hurt." Fuel was equally critical. Without it, the few remaining aircraft could not fly, and Malta would become an easy target. In August 1942, the Allies made a desperate gamble. A massive convoy codenamed Operation Pedestal, 14 merchant ships, escorted by aircraft carriers, battleships, and cruisers, sailed from Gibraltar toward Malta. For days they were attacked from air, sea, and beneath the waves. U-boats sank ships, Torpedo bombers crippled others. Fires lit the night sky as tankers burned. One ship, the American-built tanker Ohio, carried precious aviation fuel. It was struck repeatedly, its crew killed or wounded, but still it floated, barely. Two destroyers lashed themselves to its sides, holding it upright and towing it into Valletta's Grand Harbor on August 15th. Crowds lined the walls and rooftops, cheering through tears. The fuel Ohio brought kept Malta alive and in the fight, recognizing the courage of the island's people. King George VI awarded Malta the George Cross to bear witness to a heroism and devotion that will long be famous in history. It was the first time an entire population had been given such an honor. The medal was sewn onto the island's flag, where it remains today, a permanent reminder of those years when Malta fought alone. As 1942 drew to a close, the tide of war in North Africa began to turn. The Second Battle of El Alamein broke Rommel's hold in Egypt. With Axis forces retreating west, Malta became less a target and more a launching point for Allied attacks. Convoys arrived more often. The air raids slowed, then stopped. People emerged from the shelters into streets they had not walked freely in months. Children played again in the open air. Between 1940 and 1942, Malta endured over 3,000 air raids, more than London during the Blitz. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. Thousands of civilians were killed or wounded, yet the island never surrendered. By striking at Axis supply lines, Malta directly weakened Rommel's Afrika Korps, hastening the Allied victory in North Africa. More than that, it proved that determination and unity could defy overwhelming force. Today, the bomb shelters remain, some preserved as museums, others still hidden under the limestone streets. The people of Malta still tell the stories, still remember the nights spent underground, and still honor the moment their small island stood, alone against the storm. Malta's story is not just a military tale. It is a lesson in endurance, sacrifice, and the quiet defiance of a people who refuse to give in. In the vast sweep of World War II, the island may be small, but its courage was immeasurable. For more than 2 years, Malta endured bombs, blockade, and hunger. Its streets were shattered, its skies darkened, its people tested beyond measure. Yet it never surrendered, not it stood as a stone in the middle of the sea, defying the tide, striking back against those who sought to crush it. And when the world seemed far away, it fought on, not for glory, but for survival. In the end, the island was still standing, scarred but unbroken. And the courage of its people remains carved into its flag, its walls, and its history. If you want to hear more of the battles and sieges that history almost forgot, stay with me, because the smallest places often hold the greatest stories.